Hello. Hi, my name is Rachel, and today we're going to talk about The Mister by E.L. James. I did not type up a script for this. We're just going to go in blind because, oh my fucking god, what the fuck was... Why was this book so many fucking pages? You know what? I actually do know who was responsible for this. Bloom. Once again, I'm going to go on a little rant before we start. Once again, Bloom Publishing, shut up! Bloom Publishing is publishing mediocre white women's books and letting them get away with it. For what? For what? God. I have friends who I alpha read for who have actual fucking talent, and yet I got commissioned to, I had to read all, like 500 fucking pages of The Mister by E.L. James. Today's video was sponsored by Christopher. Thanks, Christopher, for this. Christopher also commissioned me to read After by Anna Todd. Christopher, I think, does not like me. Help me. We're going to talk about The Mister by E.L. James. I'm going to rant about it. First, I have to sing thank you for being a friend to my patrons. First, to those paying my therapy bills, which, my god, I need it after The Mister by E.L. fucking James. Yes, E.L. James, also the writer of 50 Shades of Grey. Great. I have also read those. They're terrible. Okay, thank you to my patrons, to those paying my therapy bills, Eric, Jill, Lex, SJ, Molly, and Zachary. Thank you for being a friend. And to my potato starch Marxists, Aiden, Allison, Anita, Brittany, Caitlin, Carlin, Chris, CJ, Corwin, Diet Goth, Ebby, Eden, Elise, Aaron, Gracie, Horror Goose, James, Jen, Jillian, Jules, Kate, KDO, Quinn, Kylie, Laura, Marcella, Morgan R, Morgan W, Moth, Nicole, Paige E, Paige P, Peggy, Ray, Reba, Ren, Sammy, Sarah, Shannon, Sean, Talia, and Ryder A. Thank you for being a friend. If you want to join Patreon, the link is down below. You get early access, yada yada. We can also chit chat about how much Bloom owes me for damages, yeah? God! Why, E.L. James? Why? Okay, I have some notes on my phone. E.L. James book. Oh yeah, okay, alright, here, I will read you the synopsis. Ready? The Mister. We'll look it up on Goodreads. Wow, this is the least prepared I've ever been for a video in my life, and I only have like 35 minutes to film it. The passionate new romance from E.L. James, author of the phenomenal #1 best-selling 50 Shades trilogy, London, 2019. Life has been easy for Maxim Trevelyan. With his good looks, aristocratic connections, and money, he's never had to work and rarely slept alone. But all that changes when tragedy strikes and Maxim inherits his family's noble title, wealth, and estates, and all the responsibility that entails. It's a role he's not prepared for, and one that he struggles to face. But his biggest challenge is fighting his desire for an unexpected, enigmatic young woman who's recently arrived in England, possessing little more than a dangerous and troublesome past. Reticent, beautiful, and musically gifted, she's an alluring mystery, and Maxim's longing for her deepens into a passion that he's never experienced and dares not name. Just who is Alessia Dimachi? Can Maxim protect her from the malevolence that threatens her? And what will she do when she learns that he's been hiding secrets of his own? I don't know, probably some boring shit. Actually, I do know, so let's talk about it. We open. Maxim Trevelyan is a rich man who likes to fuck people, and currently he's fucking his dead brother's wife. She is a recent widow, and he's like, I am fucking my dead brother's wife. He's like, oh, I'm so disgusting, but so is she, even though she's a widow who's grieving. They were apparently each other's firsts, and then she chose his brother. I don't care. My next note just says, this woman writes sex scenes like a 56-year-old white man. I stand by that. For some reason, E.L. James writes every single thing that these people are doing to excruciating detail, including naming name brands for no fucking reason. He's like, I'm going upstairs. I'm grabbing my iPhone. I don't need a brand name. I don't give a fuck what Maxim Trevelyan has as far as technology. Do you think I care? I do not care. I do not care. Also, Maxim is really into piano. He writes piano pieces is that the right word? There is actual piano in the audio of this, and I'm like, wow, way to ruin piano for me. Thank you so much. Alessia, for some reason, Maxim's stuff is written in first person while Alessia is written in third. There's no reason for this. Moving on. Maxim really likes to fuck, and he also is sometimes a DJ, which is objectively hilarious. Alessia Demachi is a Albanian woman who, our first chapter is her running away from people who are trying to get her to the home of her mom's best friend in England who takes her in. Anyway, she gets hired as his cleaning lady. She shows up and she sees him laying in bed for the first time, and he's asleep and he's butt-ass naked, and she's like, oh my god, my womanly composure, I simply cannot. I am just a mere woman who cannot look at the sight of dick. It's so dramatic for no reason. He sees her for the first time and he's like, oh my god, my cleaning lady is so hot. I want to bone her so bad. I'm going to run super hard on this treadmill so I forget about my horniness. And I'm like, E.L. James needs to go to prison. So they haven't spoken at 50%, sorry, not 50. God, it took me forever to get through. I wish I was at 50% at that point. At 15% through this book, they have not spoken, but they're both masturbating, thinking of each other. What? This book has, my next note says, this book has no plot, but I watched a scene where he goes out to lunch with his mom and sister, and first of all, he's like, my mother left my father, and she's obsessed with her appearance, and this goes on for a whole paragraph. I stand by that, yeah. Also, there's a mention of how, like, his friend wants to fuck his sister, but they have a no sisters rule, and I'm like, okay, but you didn't have a don't fuck your dead brother's widow rule? Okay, that seems misogynistic. Alessia plays the piano at Maxim's house, and he's like, oh my god, she plays the piano, I have a raging boner, I'm so fucking bricked up right now, ah! And he goes and he's like, oh, you play piano? And then he touches her bottom lip. Sir, stop it. You're disgusting. She's Albanian. This whole book feels like really weird and inappropriate Albanian rep. I used to work for Albanian guys, and while they were super misogynistic, I think that that was like very, very tailored to like the men I was working with and not the entirety of Albania, but what do I know? I'm not Albanian. So she is penniless, and she doesn't have shoes that have soles in them, even though he's rich as hell. He could just like leave her some shoes anyway. And then he figures out that she's an illegal immigrant, and he's like, oh no, man, I want to fuck her. And I'm like, stop! At one point she's like cleaning and he's sleeping, and he thinks he's still sleeping, and he tries to make out with her / snuggle her, which I don't know. I'm a light sleeper, so maybe I don't know about what y'all deep sleepers are doing, but that seems outrageously outside the context of reality. That my next note just says, this audiobook's narrator's accents are pretty fucking terrible. I stand by that. She writes a bunch of trauma for Alessia into this book just to give this dude a opportunity to look like a good guy in context. So like all the other men in Alessia's life are absolute shit. So Maxim is like her rescuer. So she was almost sold into sex trafficking by like two super disgusting dudes who like figure out where she is, pretend to be from immigration, and try to come after her, and he's like, I'll protect you. And I'm like, yeah, but like you're still kind of a shit human too, so I'm not ew, but also ew on them too. Like every man in this book sucks. I'm rooting for no one. I'm rooting for Alessia to be with no one. All of you are shit. It just feels like really kind of gross. It's like trauma porn-y to write, oh, I was almost a sex trafficking victim, but you saved me. Like, it's just, that's something about that just rubs me the wrong way. He happens to have a two-headed eagle tattoo, which also happens to be the Albanian flag mascot, and he's like, what are the odds? Cringe. Yep. So he whisks her away because those two dudes were after her who tried to sell her into sex trafficking, the Albanians. So they're like staying in his chateau. Wait, no. Okay, so he protects her from the Albanians, and he keeps them from taking her away, and she's like, well, I have no money and I have nothing. And he takes her to his, you know, countryside manor, whatever. It's like the typical fantasy of like, you know, rich man saved me. Like, just make this a porn. It would be better as porn. So they're staying at his country, you know, manor. She does not know why he is so fucking rich. He's like, yeah, sometimes a DJ. Good fucking God. She doesn't know that he's like a lord, right? Which I think is a lord. I don't know. He inherited his brother's shit, so now he has all these responsibilities when all his responsibilities previously amounted to being a DJ. Okay. And fucking a bunch of women. So, you know, whatever. Anyway, they're staying in his house and they're like flirting a lot and masturbating, thinking of each other a lot. And it's like, wow, this is awkward and boring. And they finally talk about sex and he's like, oh God, she's a virgin. Oof. Oh no, that's such a big, he calls it a responsibility to take somebody's virginity. And I'm like, oh, wow, the paternalism here is disgusting. And then again, she, we're barely into this book and she doesn't know what he does for work. She's like, they barely know each other and she's like, you know what? Actually, I'm in love with him. In love with what? His house? I mean, I would be too, but what the fuck? You don't even know this guy. So she's like, I really want to fuck. And he's like, no. And so she walks away and goes and plays piano because he like didn't want to do it while they were like drinking. Anyway, he thinks she's like really fucking sexy in these SpongeBob pajamas, which was a whole weird, uncomfortable mess. And so she's playing piano, and for some reason, it reminds him of his dead brother. He starts crying, and he says, she's unmanned me. I'm crying. Unmanned you? You know what makes me super unhorny? Is toxic masculinity. Is thinking that crying makes you not a man anymore. Instantly unhorny. Everything in me has dried and shriveled up. They're about to fuck and he says, I light up like Piccadilly Circus. Wow. E.L. James, stop. Nothing says horny like thinking about your dead brother and Piccadilly Circus. And then he says the line, it's music to my dick. It's music to my dick. Okay. He is describing her because he's like, you know, super horny, and he says she's innocent. Ew. The paternalism jumped out again. Then they're eating banoffee pie and she licks his finger and says that he tastes clean and male. I would love for you to tell me what biological maleness tastes like. I would love for you to describe that to me because it's definitely a thing. For sure. For sure. He talks about his crotch a lot. Like, it makes my dick jolt, makes my dick tighten, makes my dick do this, and I'm like, wow, I really don't want to hear about your dick. I don't care about your dick. I could not care less about a man who DJs dick. It's a no for me. Like, at one point he says, she flashes me a quick crotch tightening grin. Her grin makes your crotch tighten? I just think you have something wrong with your dick at this point. She finally admits to him that she has a fiance who her dad set her up with who's evil, and he goes, no, there's competition, my woman. Ew. Stop. Despite having friends in security, okay? One of his friends, I think his name was Tom, who was, of course, a former, like, war hero who had a injury in war. God, the stereotype. Despite having these friends in security, he doesn't secure his own fucking house. So the Albanian dudes break into his house and find his address for his place in Cornwall, where they are. They go there when he just happens to not be there, and they're just about to kidnap Alessia to, you know, put her back in sex trafficking, and he shows up like, I quote, an avenging archangel with a shotgun, so, you know, fucking John Wick, and the Albanians get arrested. She finds out that he is an earl, not a lord, an earl, and she's like, oh, he lied, he said he was a DJ. Girl, listen, this is the best news you could have gotten about him, okay? I don't know much about being an earl, but at least he's not a fucking just a DJ, okay? The fact that this mayonnaise colored man said he was a DJ, and that was not a red flag for her in the first place. Anyway, they get over, you know, this discrepancy in like 3 pages, and they're like, by the way, I love you. Oh my god, I love you too. Let's have more sex. Badly written sex. This has no business being 500 pages long. Also, there was a fucking Harry Potter reference in here. Stop. fiance person that her dad had, you know, set her up with because her dad owed the guy money. His name is Anatoly. Anatoly also shows up when the guy is not home, when Maxim is not home, and kidnaps Alessia. And so he's taking her back to Albania to be his woman, you know, like a caveman. Throws her over his shoulder. Just, again, weird Albania stereotypes, I feel like. But he has weird humanizing moments for no reason, where he buys her batteries for a flashlight because he's like, you have to sit in the trunk of the car because you don't have a passport and I have to sneak you into the country. But also I know you're scared of the dark, so here's some batteries for your flashlight. It's like, what? What? She claims to be from a place that's really behind in the times, like out in the country, you know, the Alabama of Albania, the Alabama. So she claims to be like, you know, from somewhere really behind the times, but then also says, Anatoly, you're such a Neanderthal, and in other countries, the way you treat women would be unacceptable. Wait, wouldn't it be unacceptable even in other places in Albania? Don't you admit that your own city is kind of like backwards? Like, what about wouldn't it be unacceptable in like the capital of Albania? I don't understand. So it's not just your town that's backwards then? Now E.L. James is saying it's the whole of Albania that sucks. Alright. Anyway, we're getting a play-by-play of every single thing Maxim is doing while he's on his way to go to Albania to get his woman back. So he goes to a fucking bar, right? And first of all, he said, I take a sip of Negroni. I wish that had distracted me from the fact that E.L. James goes on to describe the entire bar. This is the climax of the book, and I'm having a bar described to me, a random ass bar. She's like, the staff is friendly, but not overly so. Okay, and... So Alessia is at a restaurant with her kidnapper, Anatoly, and she orders wine, and she's like, wow, oh wow, aren't you so Western now? Bro, not only do they have wine in Albania, they make wine in Albania. What are you talking about, Western? Then Anatoly tries to sexually assault her, but she's like, wait, I'm on my period. He's like, ew, yucky. So, okay, she considers killing him, doesn't. Considers suicide, doesn't. They get to her house, she tells her dad, oh, I'm pregnant. Maxim shows up. She's not pregnant, by the way. Maxim shows up and she's like, that's the father. Her dad's like, what the fuck? They all argue, and you know, of course, love wins the day. And then they, despite her dad being like, I'm really unhappy that you are pregnant and getting married to this random ass guy, they fuck in her dad's house, and she is wearing a virginal nightgown. That's a quote. Okay. And the end of the book is they are engaged, and Maxim says, yeah, I like can't wait to get married. I now just have to tell my mother. What the fuck does your mom have to do with literally anything? Your mom came up in one paragraph of this book and you described hating her because she's obsessed with her looks. What are you talking about? How was this book 500 pages? Anyway, that was the story of how a mayonnaise colored DJ fucked an Albanian girl who used to clean his house because she wore SpongeBob pajamas and made him think of his dead brother. And then they went to Albania. That's it. That's The Mister by E.L. James. You're welcome. Okay, that's the end of this video. God, I cannot believe I have written everything that E.L. James has ever written. What does that say about me as a person? I don't even like her books. Thanks so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below, and like, subscribe if you want to, or don't. I don't really care. And you can subscribe to Patreon, or you can donate to my Ko-fi down below. And that's it. Okay, thanks so much for watching. My brain is dead. See you next time. Bye.